crazy. I mean, like I said, it's one of the best stories I've ever heard in 2 years of doing this.
I don't know about that, man. You've
It,
had some
it,
pretty amazing guests.
it's certainly up there without a doubt. I do want to ask you a question on your opinion of when you were fighting kind of regime loyalists
Mm,
compared to hardcore terrorists who might have come in from Africa or Jordan,
mm.
or the fundamentalists. Did you view it differently when it came to that? Because one guy's a uniform soldier fighting for his government's army. The other dude is, I mean, I hear the word a lot: animal, satanic. They'll saw someone's head off without second thought. Suicide vest. Did you view those two things differently, or for you, did it make no difference?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And what I would say is, when you talk about, the Iraqi, kind of army as a whole, they were very, very quick to give up. For two different reasons. One, they knew it was over. They knew there was no like fighting the surge that was coming. Many of them were vets from the Desert Storm, and they saw the only thing that stopped us was us. They know we could have taken Baghdad, in a matter of days, and we moved faster this time. Um, so they were very, very quick to kind of give up. But the tactics themselves in the beginning, they definitely had better tactics. Because they did do training. It wasn't good training. They were very demoralized. They did not have a lot of money and all this different kind of stuff, and the state of equipment was absolutely abysmal. Um, so to be honest with you, it wasn't really anything that I was like, okay, yeah, hey, that's like a trained army. Okay. Now, but when we start talking about foreign fighters, though, and that story that I just told, that deployment and a half of another deployment, my platoon was a strike force for the foreign fighters out of Balad, meaning while we had strikers and we would do stuff in and around the area, there wasn't a lot really kind of around Balad, a lot of targets. But I mean, there was some, but it was nothing like real substantial as compared to like what guys had in Mosul or Tikrit or Baghdad, even Baghdad and stuff like that. Like it wasn't as substantial. There was minor stuff, but we would be lucky if we would do like maybe two missions a week, like like right there in Balad proper, or kind of, and I can't remember the other town that was a little bit south of it. We were the primary helo package for the strike forces. So, because the helos were based there, and so when Delta wasn't using them, we were using them, and so what that resulted in is we were the guys striking all the foreign fighters, not all the foreign fighters, but the ones that were training out in camps or coming across the borders, to go into these major cities and everything else. Um, and I will tell you, there was times where, it wasn't that big of a deal, but there was times where we would hit buildings and I'm talking, barricaded positions, secondary positions, ammo, grenades, all these different kind of stuff set up to for a prolonged gunfight. They were prepared, centuries out to for early warning systems, you know, uh, LPOPs, two-man positions out, to, as early warning, but then also to, initiate with us before we got, up to the building and everything else. So the building could get, the people in the building could get prepared, for us to come and everything else. I mean, it was, and they were, just like you said, they were trained. They were trained, but more importantly, they were willing to die. It was actually prescribed. They were coming there to die. It was just a matter of how many people were they going to kill in the process of their death, and they were prepared to do that. And that's why you saw suicide vests. You saw, barricaded shooters. You saw all that different kind of stuff. They weren't running. Yeah, sure, you got squirters and stuff like that, but I'd be curious, and it'd be impossible for us to know this, but how many of those squirters were actually foreign fighters or were just random people, most of them, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's plenty of those foreign fighters. Like everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to do gangster shit, so they might have changed their mind, in amongst the firefight. But yeah, some of those foreign fighters, man, they were, yeah, I mean, I've told people this that, and guy dying, and I'll always remember him. Guy dying. think he got shot. But, you know, he basically on his last breath. And I remember that guy looking at me and two things: pure evil, pure unadulterated evil in that guy's face. And two, unbelievable hate in that guy's face, you know, before he died.
Do you feel better about yourself? Is it easier to stomach the level of violence when you're fighting someone like you just said, like the level of hate and the level of evil? Like, you know, when we kill this dude, the world is a better place when this dude leaves it. Does it make the violence easier to go through?
That is a unassuming, remarkably tough question. Um, yes, in some ways, I have we've eliminated people from this world that deserve to be eliminated. There's no doubt about it. Because if it even hadn't been us fighting in Iraq, who knows what level of violence or things that they would have done in their home countries, you know? And like you said, you know, people from Africa, you know, coming over there to fight in the jihad. They would have been violent probably no matter what. I don't really. They were probably looking for a cause more than the cause, you know, presented itself. Maybe, maybe not. But so no, you know, I don't lose an ounce of sleep over, you know, moments like that or people like that at all. Um, however, you know, justifying in your mind the fog of war situations that happened, um, you know, kids, bombs, um, you know, even innocent men, you know, just wrong place, wrong time. Um, you know, those are the ones that are tough. Those are the ones that are difficult. And it's hard to justify it. It's hard to justify it. And there's levels to that. Okay, like the actions that I've done, the trigger that I pulled. That's one thing. Okay. But you know, and there's one guy that I always think of when I talk about this is a situation, you know, where one of my guys, and because of the intel and everything else in the building that we were hit, hey, you will lead, you know, and upon entry into the building, you will lead with a thermobaric grenade. Um, you know, so mid entry into the building, and he led with a thermobaric grenade. And it was because of the intel, like it wasn't, you know, just something that we normally did. It was this situation. Well, unfortunately, in that room was, you know, because the men and the women sleep differently. You know, they sleep in different parts of the house. It was full of women and children, and he had to go through that, and that team had to go through that, and the rest of the squad and part of the platoon had to go through that as we treated casualties and we pulled people out, and you know, people are missing limbs and little girls are missing limbs and everything else. You know, we're trying to treat them, we're trying to save lives and everything else. You know, one, that team leader that threw that, you know, he's got to carry that for the rest of his life. But then everybody else that, you know, helped in that situation, and that was my decision.
That is
Oh,
unbelievable. How